Hey guys, Hadley here from Sydney Reefing. I'm currently on a field trip up in Cairns and I've just dropped into Triton OES to visit their new display tank that Ishan and Julian have set up. So enjoy this episode. I'm going to be interviewing both of them and just asking general questions about how they set up the tank and what's involved with running it. Hey both, thanks for having me. Thanks for also showing me your beautiful tank that you set up. I believe it's been set up for about 3 months now.
Yep, 3 months. First fresh baby tank.
Baby tank. And do you want to maybe give us a bit of a rundown of the tank and sort of why you set it up and maybe some insights into that? And,
So why is that? There's so many reasons. One is that we wanted a tank again, but like realistically for the business it's pretty good. We always kind of prove our concept with an aquarium. So we do aquarium products, so we should be able to treat that aquarium. This is our philosophy from the start. So I had my old tank in Germany. Industrial law that was a very famous tank too, with a 1 meter clam in it and stuff and kit and all that thing. But then when we moved, we did obviously break it down, and I need to get somebody for the clam and for the 1 meter course and stuff in there. It's hard, but very hard for me. So then moved over and we had a whole time without an aquarium, right? So I was kind of really bad. I realize now I'm very happy right now. So so Julian and me we decided to kind of get that going with Sean, my wife, so we wanted to have a tank again. And it was Julian's idea to say like it should be a biochar tank.
I think we discussed it and we were talking obviously that coral has to come from Australia.
Yep.
And then
anyway.
And the option of what fish do we put in here? And I kind of seen so many tanks over the years with, the Achilles tang and all those, which are beautiful fish, don't get me wrong. But to make it a bit more unique, a bit special, I said, why don't we just stick to what we've got right here on our doorstep? It just makes sense to make it a GBR.
Because we've got some beautiful stuff right out there that people never get to see anyway.
My favorite antics.
They're absolutely stunning those.
Absolutely crazy. So I had that in my old tank too. That's the point, right? And it was exactly from the same diver collected from Cairns.
Oh wow!
So it was crazy because I came here and Tim was like, "Oh, you have my ideas and stuff," and it was so good. And then here, like, I'm many on the markets, and I, and then they say, I told you that fish is good. It's just it's something else. It's a bit of cheating. If I can, it's alright.
Awesome. Cairns hat, you call it.
It is.
But I think that even came back to the live rock too that we were able to source. Knowing the different types of live rock that you can access here in Australia. There's the kind of green rock, which is collected more on the inshore reefs, got a bit more algae growth on it. But I knew that Cairns Marine get their rock also out in the Coral Sea. But it's not very often that they go out there and collect rock. They generally focus on the fish and coral. So again, Tim, I actually spoke to Lyle. I said, can you get us some Coral Sea rock? And I said, well, he said, if you could talk Tim into doing it, then we'll get it for you. And
it's very easy to get Tim into.
That's very cool.
Anyway,
So maybe give us a rundown of the tank itself. So like, firstly, how big is it? Like, how much water does it hold? Is it a custom tank? What's it made out of?
So we actually wanted to make a custom tank, but then, funny as it is, there was somebody selling an acrylic tank, right? That's an acrylic tank.
It's meant to be.
Very rare.
Oh wow. Okay.
It's when rapid, because it was absolutely nuts. So it was
meant to be.
Right that time, and it was full of scratches and stuff. So then, obviously, we had Sean, and he's like our tech guy, he's Sean, he's like a super Sean, handyman.
Super Sean.
And then Super Sean went in there like a fish, and he was actually. And that was maybe the beginnings of the tank of just him
inside
day after day.
And I was asking Julian like, "Oh, you fed Sean today?" Because
Sean's in the tank.
We didn't let him out. He had to stay there until there were no scratches.
It's very dangerous now because he's looking at that tank every day to see if there's any scratches.
Oh, so he's gonna be pissed off.
But it's a used tank, and we wanted to kind of showcase that you don't need a new tank to make something, really cooler. Right? And look good. And it's more about the inside,
Exactly.
For me, I like new tanks. nothing against a brand new kind of a pretty tank, but for me it's not needed. So you know, you can kind of save a little bit of money there, and maybe just invest it in something else.
Yeah.
Right? Like the lights.
Yeah, they're stunning lights. We'll get to that in a bit, but yeah.
So no, but it's 2 meter 40 and 1 meter 20.
Okay.
It's like 67 high, but we normally have it like on 63
Yep.
built. Let's say that, like depends on how dirty the wear comp is. But yeah, we have like around 200 kilos of live rock in it.
So just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, mostly you have the sump too, so you'll see that too.
Yeah.
Right? But because we're running that super easy Triton method,
Yep.
kind of thing, you know, I mean, for a tank like that, with roll, like you will get there. This is super easy.
Yeah.
You know that people are going crazy building whole cellars.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nobody really can do that. I
Yeah.
guess it's 1% of people that would do something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
And when we shaped the Triton method, we made it easy. Like,
Yeah.
This is what the goal is, like make it simple, easy.
Yeah.
So actually we really run everything future-wise underneath.
Oh yeah.
And we have a little bit of stuff like in that little bulk bag, little door there. That's where the 47 sits.
Is that Julian's bedroom?
That's Julian's bedroom.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's our reef, like our order that is going in there.
Ah.
Alright.
Yeah, around underneath. But we just did that because we have an outer reef tank.
Yep.
So outer reef means like not measurable nitrates, 6 phosphorus, like really low. We reached out, but we also want antis.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
hard.
Heavy feeding and
So-
low nutrients don't really.
I really, honestly, I 3, 4, 5 days ago, I sent the boys, like we have a group for the tank, so I measured it and it was down.
Whoa.
And I said, congratulations, we're there. You know, like, because it was, you know, we're feeding this thing like 4 times a day.
Yeah.
So
That's pretty impressive. Like even for a new tank, like to establish all your your denitrifying bacteria and stuff that quickly. So it says a lot about like the method that you guys use as well.
Yeah, true. Like we have a biological method, so it's really based on that cycles. And Julie just said that, like on the video before he said, you know, the cycles are going fast. Right?
Yeah.
So we always say when you're on a bicycle and then you go slow, you're kind of wobbly.
Yeah.
But when you go faster, then you got kind of get that like straight line.
So, yeah.
And that's where you have a biological filtration that you're not manipulating. All the
Yeah,
time, but you
exactly.
let it run.
Yeah.
That's when you get that.
Exactly,
And you
yeah.
see the graphs of pH and acidity. They're like flat lines.
That's awesome,
They're like
yeah.
really good. Yeah. So it's before we had the corals in there, it was still moving around because
Yeah.
the corals do photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Right? So we have that illumination like on the main tank
Yeah.
in the daytime.
Yeah.
And then in the night. it's
Yeah.
on. So you still have that shift, but
Yeah.
instead of you put the corals in.
Yeah.
Kind of 4 or 5 days after you flatten that out. So it's
Oh, wow.
really cool to see.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say, that live rock, that actually really helps that.
Yeah. It does.
Because
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realise and why sometimes with you use dead rock, you don't get that bacteria that lives deep inside the rock, which helps to consume nitrates.
Yeah, exactly.
That could take 2 or 3 years for
Yeah.
it to get
Yeah.
into the core of the rock.
Yeah.
You get the outside ones that help with your ammonia
Yeah.
and nitrite, but not those nitrate-eating bacteria.
Yeah.
I'll never set up a tank without one.
Yeah. I think.
I'm really honest. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I think like dead rocks. Yeah, I can see the appeal with some people like wanting to start a tank immediately and scape it to how they want. But at the end of the day, like if you can still see the scape when it's finished, you haven't done it right anyway.
Yeah.
And obviously you want to have the best thing in your tank, and I think live rock is definitely that. It can be a little bit more difficult to get, and you want to make sure you get good quality stuff.
Yeah.
But also in saying that too, like what we were talking about before, all the little critters that come on it, they play such an important role in the microbiome of the tank.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got sponges and tunicates, all these filter
Yeah.
feeders, and within a day or 2 of us putting the live rock in,
Yeah.
the water was crystal clear.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And,
And Jules always say it's very important for the people's use. There's like, let's say there's steps, you know, so you have live rock, which is the highest kind of premium stuff that you could use for me, right? And then you go dead rock,
Yeah.
which is still okay.
Yeah.
But then there's also man-made rock. That's
Yes.
maybe the kind of the lower side,
Yeah.
the hardest thing. And you can try to, you know, make. I saw a guy trying to make it with PVC tubes.
Yeah.
It's like non-plastic, right?
Yeah.
But And I've never seen this kind of work over long term.
Yeah.
So yeah, for us, it's always about people getting into the hobby or just 3 years or 4 years. I mean, we're doing it like 30 years. 30 years. It's different, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the goal of the method to just make it easy, successful.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I think you can be successful long term doing it with other types of rock.
Yeah.
But again, we're busy. We don't have time to go through all those problems. And I think that people try to go to these other options for rock because one, they're worried about sustainability. I understand that. But if you're buying it from the Australian collector, you're buying it from a sustainable under quota managed fishery. And I think the other thing is that they're trying to get away from hitchhikers and parasites. Like they think they're going to have this sterile tank, which I think leads to this other problems like dinoflagellates, cyanobacteria.
Sterile is not good. You want a dirty tank, and we'll get to that when we see your sump too, because it looks good. But maybe give us a quick sort of overview of all the equipment you've got over here, because I noticed you got some massive pumps here.
Yeah, so that's all open right now, so there will be a cabinet around it. So we have Pantherite pumps, 4 of them. So this is the 2 main pumps, and we have 2 more. You can see that here, like that.
Oh yeah, wow. Oh yeah, just in there.
Right? So they all work on these controllers.
Yep.
I'm very happy with them. They're
it looks very neat.
Yeah, they're really expensive too, but they're really good what they do. So they're all connected to each other.
Yeah.
So I control one of them, and the other one, that one controls all of the rest.
Okay.
So they're really synced in.
Yeah.
So what we did very special to this thing, I've never seen it before, is we use the big Pantherite. So you have this one with a 50mm outlet.
Yep.
Right, so you can have it with a 50mm, or you have a 90mm.
Oh wow,
right?
okay.
So
So you really get that volume coming through.
Exactly, and we kind of, what this pump does is there's a little prop in there, right?
Yep.
So there's actually this inner pump in there, the same one, but with a prop, and then that prop turns that way, it sucks from the one side and pumps this way, and then it turns around. So it actually sucks water in this way and pumps it all
So
back
it
the
sort of
other side.
oscillates a bit, because this pipe goes all the way down,
over there,
under here,
and then coming up.
up until there,
And then
that
you have
rock
it
there,
in that rock, right? So that's the way it works. So you pump it this way, and all the water kind of on that side turns that way. And it turns around and goes that way.
Which is exactly what happens with swell and surge in the ocean too. And
we're kind of trying to recreate that breathing of the with the currents, the tidal change. You get those movements both ways. It's a very high volume, low pressure, so it's just moving a large amount of water. They're not pushing it really hard. Sorry, I have to apologise for our cable management guys. This is not what it's.
We'll edit that
out. We haven't got that far yet. We're still in that very much.
That's how you know that it's real, not AI generated. Because
we still have plugs to get it and strain it. And stuff. But because I use a lot of stuff from my old tank. So the skin and the
that's why you got these.
So so it's kind of, that's all German stuff. So it's not, so we're still working on it. We get the electrician to change it over.
Yeah, I was going to say, so with this sump here, so can you run us through that? Like, what's the idea of having a sump that big?
That's our live food reactor.
Yeah, so that's how you keep all your antheas so fat and healthy.
Boosting them,
Well, it's for the beginning more than you can't do that all the time.
Yep.
So it's not enough, right? They really love it. They love hunting things, so you keep that kind of thing alive with antheas. But that's live food is more for that, right?
Yeah.
So so you have a big algae bed. That's the Triton method. That's the method we created. And it's a very constant method. It's our framework of science too. So we are the only ones in the world doing that. There is nobody else that has something similar. And it is very simple because we needed to convince people obviously to do it. Because we need a framework, so you can't get them something difficult, right?
Yeah.
They won't do it. So we don't do water changes. There's no water change in this tank.
That's no water changes at all.
Haven't had to do one water change.
That's insane. There's a lot of people who will probably not agree with that. But
but I mean, we proved this to work for the last 17 years.
Yeah.
So most people argue with us doing it for 3 years, So
exactly.
Realistically, I proved that in my old tank, and when you want to have a look at it, there's a 1 meter clam, like I said, 1 meter clam in there, and that thing got 3 water changes because my clam spawned in there. And there's videos about that.
Yeah.
It's crazy, like this size clam spawning in a tank. So what we did is exactly the same. We have our algae filter, we have a massive turnaround, which which is really good for like oxygen. Yeah, turnover.
Yep.
And then you go right over to that side here. So the water is actually like in the tank.
Yep.
The surface is taken over to the next
So
tank.
so that light stays on at night, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that maintains pH and your dissolved oxygen during the night.
So reverse link to the display.
Yeah.
We just put it on now so you can see what's in there.
Yeah.
It
And you got a bit of live rock and stuff in there too for
Yes.
copepods and
Just because when you can't match everything in the top.
Yeah.
Because we want space. I like big corals. I
Yeah.
don't like little corals like this size. I
big
just
colonies.
want- I like them to I like my fish to be much smaller than my coral.
Yeah.
So that's why I had this big plan.
Yep.
It's just I like when that looks natural for me. I
Yeah.
really like a piece with the legs that cut out of the leaf.
Yeah,
That's what I want.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what we should be aiming for too, because you see a lot of tanks and they're just so fluorescent and they look so man-made and they give you sort of the, I don't know.
I think it's a kind of personal taste thing.
It is.
You know? I mean, it's fine, but this is when you have a tank like that, I think a lot of people are attracted towards it.
Yeah.
And when they know it's not hard to do,
Yeah.
then you get more, because
Yeah.
fluorescent tanks,
Yeah.
they are often easier.
Yeah.
Like LPS in there mostly.
True.
You know what I mean? Like it's just a hobby itself.
Yeah.
It was always like that.
But and just on that same note as well, this color spectrum is what you normally run,
Yeah.
isn't it? So it's not like there's still a little bit of blue. I don't have any color filters on my lens or anything. And it looks absolutely stunning to look at. Like people come in and they can see everything clearly. Like often when you have a blue tank, it's really hard to see all the little details and you just don't get that sense of, I know, awe or amazement about it, which is what I really love about these lights
I
and
need
this
to
color.
tell you something about that.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, because in America, also when we were in America, everything is blue, right?
Yeah.
So like a lot of people run that blue tank.
Yeah.
And one problem I have is, right, you don't have any blue corals anymore.
No,
No,
yeah.
you can't see them
Yep.
because it's blue, right?
They're all green and
they're all like, no blue. And you also want purple anchors.
Yeah.
Amethyst anchors, right? They are very hard to keep and they're beautiful. But if it's blue, you don't see them.
No, because
They
they're
look
very
great.
beautiful, yeah.
So it's just, that's for me, a part of, you take all the spectrum away.
Yeah.
And then you need filters and you need
Yeah.
glasses.
Yeah. And then your wife gets upset with you because she gets headache whenever she's in the room.
can't sleep.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, but it's not like, it's just for me.
Yeah.
My personal
Yeah.
taste is that.
It's
Yeah.
gone that way, I think, because a lot of the colonies and aquariums are now sold on how many colours are in there.
Yeah, exactly,
So you
yeah.
rent the blue one, and
Yeah.
then you suddenly can see 3 more colours, and it
Exactly.
becomes a rainbow or a
Yeah.
jailbreaker or
Yeah.
something, whatever.
Yeah,
Anyway.
I am old school. Okay, I
Yeah.
had tanks with metal halides, right?
Yeah.
In the past, and I created Largies. So I was the guy driving that LEDs kind of, but it was white too. Like.
Yeah.
So anyway, then when you drop over, you actually have your area with your skimmer and the filter.
Yep.
And the filter is carbon and PL99, so
Yep.
GFR,
Oh, yeah.
right? See?
Oh, yeah, there'd be one at that. Yeah.
So- and that's a little pump, just pumping it through.
Oh, easy.
And then you have your main pump going up again. So that's
Oh, wow.
a very, very simple thing. No filter socks, no, no roller mats, nothing.
So your only real sort of like nutrient export system would be the skimmer, your GFO, and the algae, wouldn't it? So no mechanical filtration at all.
Because you take a lot away, just Jules is always, he loves that pump, right?
It's my favourite part of the tank, believe it or
Oh,
not.
really?
The critters.
Well, that was the fun. Coming back to why is there live rock in there? It's also for algae and why do we put a broad spectrum blue and white light? That's
Yeah.
something a lot of people get caught up when these lights that are like refugium lights.
Yeah,
today,
they're very
there.
red. Yeah.
And like keto is what everyone generally starts with.
Yep.
But as Isan can tell you, with his refugium on his tank in those 10 years, the dominant algae changed like 3 times.
Yeah.
If you don't have live rock in there, you're not giving other algae that like to grow on.
Yeah, yeah.
They'll come out of that live rock
Yeah.
when the conditions are right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's not about putting the algae in there that you decide.
Yeah.
It's letting the tank dictate what
Exactly.
algae grows. So
Yeah.
that's another important
Yeah.
part of having live rock in there. Just to explain that when we said at water comes, well, water comes straight from the tank straight into the refugium,
Wow.
bringing all the carbon dioxide from the fish in to help feed the algae.
Yeah.
It also, any food waste goes in there, allows all those copepods, isopods, anthropods to feed on that. So again, you'll find there'll be very little as this matures, because it's still a baby refugium.
Yeah, but look at how much coralline algae you've got in there too. it's
it's crazy.
pretty amazing.
And it's just 3 months.
Yeah.
It's just 3 months. Like you won't even see the clumps in 3 months anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
You've then got the water coming out over this, as he said, over the top baffle.
Yeah.
Comes into this protein trap, but this is important because you actually want to keep your protein trapped in here to let your skimmer do its job.
Yeah.
So the reason we have the water coming out at the bottom there before it goes to the return and back to the tank is to maintain the protein that sits in the top third of the water.
Oh, yeah, because it does float. That's the whole idea with skimmers is it sort of binds the bubbles that come up and it gets pushed into the top. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense then why you got that bit there.
All that little tweaks that we have. This tank here feeds the anchors too. It produces a lot of food.
Yeah.
If you filter it out or kill it with a UVC or ozone, you just waste it.
Yeah.
So we don't do that, and that natural kind of cycle again, that helps this tank to be so efficient.
Yeah.
And that being so efficient with only that little trap makes it so much more efficient.
I love how holistically you guys view this tank. Because a lot of people, they think a tank's I know you just whack some chemicals in and it's done, but it's like a living organism, isn't it? It's like the ocean. There's so many different aspects to the ocean. You got all the sort of the deep areas of the ocean which hold a lot of carbon, which is basically exactly the same as a sump. And then you got all your high light areas where all your algae grows, and then you got your reefs. And I really love how holistic the whole setup is.
I think that's the thing we always lose sight of is we are trying to recreate a piece of nature.
Yeah.
And by harnessing the things that nature does, like the filter feeders, like the algae, the anthropods, the copepods, the natural feeding, all those things is getting back to the natural way. So, why not use it? If you can do it, take advantage of it, and you'll see the benefits.
That's so true. And I think that's the holistic thing that Julian is talking about. A lot of people do not understand what that means, right? So we have a system that is matching to the point to every part of it, right? You have all the gear kind of in each other. So whenever we have supplementation, we supplement the filtration mainly, So we get it so efficient in a little system like that, and look what it does, So it's no water change. It's so low in maintenance.
Yeah.
So this is why we kind of took over the world, because people just do it, and it's so easy. And there's some people, they just go there and 1 week on, they're going flying and fly out.
Yeah.
They can have a tank like that, no problem. You just need to feed it. That's it. Right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of.
When I get a bigger tank eventually, I really want to run the Triton method because what you're saying, I'm often away for 2-3 weeks at a time, and it's so hard trying to make sure that just your tank remains stable over time. I've only recently got an electronic, which has been great, which I see you guys run too.
Yep.
But just, trying to maintain nutrients is the other thing, because like you guys, my nutrients are basically undetectable just because I've got such a high bio load in the tank.
Yep.
And it's so hard trying to make sure that I don't get a nutrient dropout on the waste. I've got auto feeders and stuff, but you guys have got a system which feeds itself and does all that, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of so we created it. We could do it different to make a little more money.
Yeah.
But we didn't, because we have a reason to do that too, though. This is the framework thing. So when I started the lab testing, which the lab is actually right behind you, I needed to find out a lot of things. I needed to do some kind of research. I need to understand what vanadium does, manganese does.
Yeah.
But you can't do that with one system. I mean, you're a scientist. You can't do that with one system.
No.
That's just too much error in it. Too much, So what I needed is all people in the world, or as many as possible, do it exactly the same way.
Yeah.
So, and being able to do that, I needed to give them something really, really cool, but really good for them, so they start doing it, right? And that's what we created. This is why it's so important as a scientific framework for us too.
Yeah.
So when you do testing with us, and then you have a Triton tank, you actually choose
and,
right.
And if you're wondering where your tests actually go when you're sending them to them, they go just there. So how's that for a view? Me and they're working away, and then you can still come out here and look at your tank. I would not get any work
And
done.
that wasn't the best decision though, because it's very hard to work when you
Yeah.
have a tank like that.
It does make us a little bit sidetracked.
Yeah, I can
very
imagine.
often. But I was just going to say, based on that, having people run the Triton method, it's effectively like having replicas.
Yeah.
And replication is part of science.
Yeah.
If you've got multiple people doing the same thing, it makes it very simple for us to identify or diagnose an
Yeah.
issue. Because, okay, are you running the Triton method? Yes. Okay, so you've got this problem, right? It gives you a little like troubleshoot guide. You
Yeah.
can say, all right, well, have you got live rock in your tank? They go, oh, no.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so that's something you need
Yeah.
to look at, and then we can kind of pick it apart and really quickly give people solutions to the problems they're going to
Yeah.
Because we've gone through, we know them, what to fix those problems and how to do it.
Do you know, like, roughly, I've always wondered, like, how many people are using the Triton method? Do you know?
Oh, yeah, so we have over 50,000 people
50,000?
online. Yeah, we have over 50,000 online. I could go and ask.
That's amazing. So when you're talking about replication, like,
Yeah.
you're looking at tanks, and you guys have done this, like, basically 50,000 times. Like, yeah.
And the funny thing is, it might be not 50,000 people
Triton
doing the
method.
Triton method.
Yes,
running
sorry,
tests.
yeah.
They're running test rules. Yeah.
But the reality is, look, it's 18 years now I'm doing this
Yeah.
job. Like, I founded Triton 18 years ago. We went through proving it already. So we had a tank already. We went crazy. We met Magnus main sponsors over years. We went, we kind of everywhere anyway, right?
Yeah.
And then I moved over from Germany. So it's just like, this is an old thing, right?
Yeah.
And now it's kind of coming back.
Yeah.
Kind of, and you think this is a new thing, but it's actually not new.
No, no.
And it's still the same thing, like Julian is saying, it is still the same thing it was 18 years ago.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really, so we stick to it.
Yeah.
And that's why, when you understand that, you know that this method is absolutely unique. It's just the only one that is 18 years
Yeah.
really knowledge into it.
Which 18 years in this industry is a long time, because you generally get a really high turnover of both people, companies, and just everything to do with the industry. So,
Yeah, I'd say 2 to 3 years is
Yeah.
very common for people to be in and out if they're not successful. We really aim to be successful, and everyone who uses Triton methods, Triton testing to be successful. That leads from 1 tank to 2 tanks,
Yeah.
maybe 2 tanks to a big tank.
yeah.
Yeah, we met a guy.
Which then leads to a divorce.
In Orlando, we met a guy that he met it like we met it the first time, and he's doing 10 years. He's running 10 years Triton. That was when I was still in Germany. So that's like 10 years ago he started.
Albert.
Albert.
I was going to say that the thing that you asked, like how many people run a Triton method,
Yeah.
we do have a number on that, because when you go in and set up your account, it asks you what type of filtration you're actually running. So you'll see when you set up to do your test, it
Yeah.
asks you, so we can see people running Triton method.
Oh, wow.
And those people, if Esan's looking at, as he does, looks at the results, he sees things that are different.
Yep.
He then has an ability, and that's how I guess we built the knowledge over all those
Yeah.
years. If he sees something strange, he'll reach out to that
Yeah.
person and say, what's going on in your tank? You said
Yeah.
you're doing the Triton method, and then they go, oh yeah, but I'm also doing this, this, and this. And he's like,
Ah,
okay, right.
so you can pinpoint, yeah.
Well, we have, I was still back in Germany, we could identify which pump you're running out of the test.
Oh, wow.
We found stuff like, tungsten and things.
Oh, wow.
That are in that
Yeah.
oil, So it's kind of, I don't know, it's very, when you gain this knowledge, that's really helpful for people.
Yeah.
So when we get asked very often, I'm just like, right, I have more
Yeah.
life rock.
Yeah.
More life rock, one of them is just
Yeah.
more life rock, and then it's done, so it's not that hard.
And so, do you want to talk us through some of the fish you got in this tank? Because I think you were saying before that some of them were collected as deep down as 100 meters, which is insane. Like,
Yeah. So you go explaining them, and I go crazy because I love them so much.
I was just going to say, yeah, so at the moment we've, I guess we're still in that process of adding fish. We've done it in stages. We've got, you can see these beautiful Queen Anthias. They're the Pascalis. Anthias.
yeah, they're stunning.
Yeah, there's some
I
absolute...
think so. There's a little bit of difference in them, so we need to see.
Yeah, there's actually something we did notice, because we got them all in a group, but there's a very distinct orange line on the face that you can see in these ones. They're a bit darker too. And speaking with Lyle about it, he thinks that they're potentially a CF, so another like a subspecies potentially.
Okay.
So we've got some samples for for Lemon, for Kai at the museum, and he's going to look in taxonomy. He's going to be here later in the year, so we'll give him a few. We did have a couple that at the very early stage weren't able to kind of feed enough, and we lost it, but we kept them in the freezer. We've got them for him to do more work on.
Oh, nice.
They went in at the same time we put the Oronentis, so they're called golden anthers.
Golden anthers, yeah.
They're the ones that are collected by Tim Bennett, Cairns Marine at over 100 metres. Obviously brought up very slowly to make sure they equalise.
Yeah, because that's a massive pressure difference bringing up 100 metres.
A lot of people ask me, like, how can you keep fish from that depth in a tank without you need to pressurise the water? And I'm like, no, it's all about the staging them slowly up.
Yeah.
I know from talking to Tim, as he brings them up, you'll see them start to become slightly positively buoyant and he stops.
Yeah.
So he doesn't put them too far up
Yeah.
at a time.
It's basically when you're like scuba diving, like you got to equalise your ears coming up and the same sort of thing. You got to take your time and
Oh, they just got a little bit brown.
You got a little bit, and they popped there.
We put the two-tone dartfish in there, and Esam was very adamant about putting those in at the start. That was really, they're more of a feeding stimulator.
Oh yeah.
So they're very bold, they get up in the water column. They were very robust. They
never hide. So what they what they do is, so this type of fish is they flee out of the water. So they go up, right? They don't never go down.
Okay.
So when you put the anties in, and if you do that at home too, when you put anties in, normally they go down, they go into the rock, right? So they're hiders. While these are they just run away, like they swim away. Okay. So this is why when you put them in, they will always swim outside.
Yeah.
And I always use this technique. It's a very natural kind of way to do it. So when anties are in the tank alone, you have a problem because then they hide and they never come out.
Yep.
So you never feed them. Right? That's the main thing. You need the food into them. So you need to get them out first to be able to feed them. So we put this fish in, this dartfish, and they kind of swim outside, and then they signalize there is no danger.
Yeah.
And that's
okay.
why then the anties come out. And right now the anties are mostly kind of hiding too, because that's their natural behavior. There are many more in there.
Yeah.
So,
and that goes back to what we're talking about, like the holistic approach of this tank is even in terms of the fish you're putting in, they get on cohesively with everything else, and they don't necessarily help each other, but they kind of form little groups and patterns and all that.
It's just experience-wise how you handle
Yeah.
the shark would be, because people have said that to you too. This is two types of anties in one tank.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
No.
Because normally anties don't like each other.
Yeah.
That's a good choice that we have here. Like you have the right species kind of in there.
Yeah.
But they're the hard ones, right?
Yeah.
So, because the easy ones are the aggressive ones.
Yes.
You can really go from that point, right? But then the other one is the hard ones, people always think, difficult to keep fish, I need to get an expert, so I'll wait, and then I have everything full of coral and I put that fish in, but then I need to feed it, then you have a problem.
Yeah.
So it's better to put the fish in isolated before there is anything else, so you can feed them.
Exactly,
And that's why this is working. I'm not sure if anybody else has that combination of
it makes sense. You put in like all your sort of high biola at the beginning, you establish feeding routines and then cycles within the tank. And corals, because they grow so slowly, they'll sort of adapt to it, and you'll notice any changes before they become big issues anyway. So that makes a lot of sense.
That was a different thing that Esam kind of was very adamant about when he started. He said, we'll get the fish in first. We're feeding heavily, we're feeding 4 times a day, live food, obviously trying to transition them across to the frozen mysis and artemia. And you always say you put the dead food in first.
Yeah.
And then you will add the live food afterwards.
Okay.
So you're always trying to get them to take the dead food.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're trying to get them onto.
Yeah, true.
And then you give them the ice cream afterwards.
Yep, that's it. Give them that sort of later. Yeah.
I guess after that we had those of the dartfish, they were the antics of the dartfish. We also put in this school of cardinals. They're a very good clean-up crew. They kind of they hang together.
They do, don't they?
They're beautiful, actually.
Yeah.
Really
I've never seen them in a big school like that. Like I've only ever seen people keeping like 1 or 2, and they look really quite pretty in a big school.
And they act in a different way, the antis too. They kind of have their own little zone. And I love them. I think they're great. A lot of these, like even the darts, I was surprised, the colours in the eyes, you see yellow on the dorsal.
Yeah.
It's,
But that's the light too.
Yeah, do you want to run us through? So how many lights do you have here? And they're Delua, what are X4s? You've got, I can't even count how many you've got, but that's a lot.
I'm honestly very, very happy with these lines. Like I thought they would be good. That's
Yep.
why we decided to actually ask the community to kind of, all
Yeah, I remember you putting out a call like that.
So and then we have chosen this one because you can change, like maybe you could change the LEDs.
Yeah.
So that's what I really love because that's kind of giving you some kind of ability of repairing them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which you can't do with a lot of modern
Yeah, I'm
LEDs.
very into this stuff because it's always too late. Like I mean, it took 7 months to get an ICP here, but we're in Cairns, so it's
Yeah.
not like easy. So I like that kind of part to it. But then when they came over, I saw what they can do. They actually penetrate heavily into the water.
Yeah,
So
because you
that's
can change the angle of the LEDs, can't you? You can get wide ones and then sort of
Yes,
narrow
now you
beams.
can,
Yeah.
and when we got them, you couldn't.
Ah.
But it doesn't matter. So we have a standard setup.
Yeah.
here, and so the Lanis, my lights that I developed and then sold the brand after years, they were like very flat and very
Yeah.
you make like very flat line. Like, so the line was very high angle. Right?
Yeah.
But this is not the case with this one. So they're actually penetrating more. So on the bottom we get still like 650 pounds.
650 on the bottom.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So-
And then, so how much are you getting like at the top, like where some of these corals
I
are?
think
Like,
that's like 900-ish.
Yeah, so that's a
1,000,
lot.
So like here that's like 900,
Yeah.
800-ish,
which is
so-
still way more than a lot of people have. And considering like how low your nutrients are too, like it just goes to show like how much of the actual GBR you've replicated. Because in the wild too, like you get corals that are baking out in the sun under like 2,000 micromole of light.
Exactly.
So,
And that's, I guess, it's an important thing to say. Like we had, I think initially we put 15 units over here,
Yeah.
3 by 5, and we had them gapped a little bit, obviously, just
Yeah.
to spread out. And we found that there were these kind of little dips.
Yeah.
But because of what we're trying to accomplish, it's not that everyone's cup of tea. Not everyone's trying to make these big flat tabletops,
Yeah.
which we obviously see when we go out the reef.
Yeah.
That's what we want to try and have here. These like 80 centimetre, 1 metre flat. If you don't have that continuous lighting across the entire surface,
Yeah.
you'll find they'll reach
yeah.
as they go along.
to the light.
So we won't get the tabletop
Yeah,
natural look we're looking
yeah.
for. So
You
we
get a
make-
really even sort of lighting, so the corals will grow sort of more naturally as opposed to trying to search out the different bits of light.
Like a blanket.
Yeah.
So what we did is we got more lights, but then we dipped them down.
Ah, okay,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
So you can reach the 15 were enough
Yeah.
energy was,
Yeah.
but it wasn't spread enough.
Yeah.
So that's why we put more up, and
Yeah.
that's why we get them down.
It's much like what you've done with your big wave makers and stuff. Like you don't actually have a lot of force behind it. You just got a lot of volume, which is what you've done with the lights.
Yes.
And ideally, which is what you want in an aquarium, because you don't want these super intense sort of beams shining on corals. 'Cause
Or the super intense. push
yeah,
onto them.
and because it's not good for fish either, because like fish are obviously, most of them come from the wild where they're used to having this sort of blanket spread of light, and you put them into a tank like this where they've suddenly got areas where it's really, really intense and really dark, and that'll do a lot to the fish, I reckon.
I
Like,
need to tell you one thing though, that's really crazy. So we have the 100 meter deep fish, right? They hunt
Yep.
the lollies, the live food,
yeah,
the ice cream. That's a really good one. I
That's
think
good.
we can't survive on it.
Yeah, no.
Don't try to.
Some people try,
Yeah,
but
but what they do is when I feed them in the evening time or in the morning when it's bluish and it's not bright, right? They hunt really, like they really hunt it down. Like they've gone crazy on the whole thing. But then the other ones, the purple ones, they're not that strong going on, right? So they kind of don't see it that good. So
Yeah.
when you have like full light on, that's when the purples are coming.
Yeah.
That's where that's there. So it's easier to feed them in full light.
Yeah.
But it's harder to feed the other edges in full light.
Yeah.
Which also makes kind of a good choice if you go for not having them fighting each other.
Yeah.
But they have like a time
Yeah.
where that's really working out too. And that's something I realized here because I've had that not before. You know?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And I think we talked about the pumps, and we obviously have the ability to ramp them up. It's because we have a long-term kind of concept
Yeah.
with our aquariums. We're not thinking about right now.
Yeah.
We're thinking 5 years from
Yeah.
now. When this tank is fully grown out, you won't even see the beautiful live rock
Yeah.
that we were talking about earlier. And these colonies are going to really kind of get in the way of the flow.
Yeah.
At that point, we'll be ramping those up to the 100, and then that will have
Yeah.
the full flow,
Yeah.
which is getting broken up and getting maintaining that flow
Yeah.
we have now.
Which that's another thing a lot of people don't do is they sort of design a tank for what they want in the moment, not for what they want it to be like in a few years' time. And often like putting so much live rock in a tank so early on as well, like disrupts so much flow. So then when they do get corals growing, you've got no water to move around. Like it's...
I always say every time they get asked, right? Like, don't. It's a rule for my aquariums is it shouldn't look good when you put the rocks on.
Yes.
It look like bad. You don't like to look at it.
Yeah.
And this tank it was a bit different. It was already
Still looks beautiful,
yeah.
but I mean, I can only imagine what it will be like in a few years' time. So
In my old tank, it was just like, what is this? What? And then you put the corals in and they filled it.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. And you also see, like, I don't like when corals are too close to each other.
Yeah.
But you can put right now, I can go and get corals like that,
Yeah.
the same size, and fill everything up.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's what you normally see. Like, and then you have 2 centimeters.
Yeah.
You know, but we want big corals.
Yeah.
And that's why you give them a lot of space, and that works with them really well too. They
Yeah.
get, like flow from everywhere.
Yeah.
It works really well.
What I like about that is you also want to see the actual shape. of
Yeah,
the coral.
exactly,
If
yeah.
you don't give them enough room, then they'll never get their,
Yeah.
their true shape.
Yeah.
And every coral has a shape.
it does, yeah, different morphologies and
Exactly, yeah. And that's where we're, even now, we're kind of, while Eastend's the king of placement, he's got his little tricks that he uses, his carbon rods. And
yeah, I saw his video, yeah.
So, you know, you see what he's doing it. He's like looking at that coral and trying to then look into
Yeah.
what it's going to be like
Yeah.
in 3-4 years or a couple
Yeah,
of years even.
because every coral will grow differently. Like I can see here, like you got multiple different aquaporas, then you got some Possilopora, some Montiporas and stuff like that. And just like how you've placed them, so you've got like all sort of the afros at the top that will sort of reach out, and then sort of the broader, thicker ones down the bottom here, which will take up the slack.
Yeah,
But yeah,
definitely. And I mean, even Eastend said at the start, like we're not putting any Monties up high.
yeah,
Because we know that those plates are
Yes.
going to end up just with this big dead zone
Yep,
underneath. and
exactly.
You can't grow anything.
Yeah.
So, you know, it is a thought process.
Yeah.
You've got to, again, future-proof yourself against, having
Yeah.
issues.
like
So-
even having this lobophilia down here, like I've had these, and they don't actually require an awful lot of light. So that still like allows you to put plenty of corals up above it, and they'll sort of get light filtered through.
That will happen. So we are not done, right? So that's just the first fish in there.
Yeah.
There's a massive amount of rats missing.
Ah,
So
yes,
we are
yes.
biological, you know.
Yeah, I love rastas. I'm a big
parasite
advocate for them.
inhibition. So we get that rastas in. We'll have right now we just go step by step. That's
Yeah.
the point, right? And then there will be a lot more LPS coming too for the lower zones, but
Yeah.
we still need first to get the cover up first.
Yeah.
You know, because otherwise there will be overlap. There will be too
Yeah.
much light. So there will be a lot of stuff happening still in this technique. It's not like, we've finished now.
Yeah.
So next time you visit, you will see it. But we now create that cover, create the shapes first, like get a feeling for how they will grow, because you never know that.
Yeah.
And then you start maybe rejiggling a little
Yeah.
bit, and then you go from there. I guess, there's still at least 60% of coral missing. There's a
Yeah.
few clams missing.
Yeah.
A couple of clams.
I'm keen to see your clams. I saw the last clam you had in one of your tanks, and it was a monster, that one.
Always a monsoon. Dan's promised.
Dan's promised, all right. Well, I've seen their clams, and they get absolutely beautiful clams because they spawn a lot of their own, don't they? Too.
Yes, they do. So the Squamosa.
Yeah.
A green.
Yeah. So let's see what comes. Dan.
Dan. So we'll probably finish on this last question. So for each of you, what's your favourite thing about this tank, or what's, I don't know, your thing that you're most looking forward to about it growing out?
You go first.
I think for myself, it's probably it's That's a really hard
It is,
question.
sorry.
It's
You're on the spot there. There's a lot of different things, aren't there?
For me, I think it's going through the process.
Yeah.
Actually, we've been thinking about this tank for so long.
Yeah.
I can't say there's a favourite coral. They're all different. I see they're all going to have their own things about them. But just going through that, again, the hardest part, people sometimes say, of getting it set up and getting to the point we're kind of hitting now where water quality is stable. It's seeing the
It's
concept
the process, yeah.
and become the reality.
Yeah.
That's what I love.
Because, I mean, you're a scientist, aren't you? So that doesn't surprise me that you love the process of it all.
And I like that it makes sense. That's
Yes.
the thing for me. It's got to
Yeah.
make logical sense
Yeah.
why we're doing everything we're doing. And I'm always asking, he said, explain again why this has to happen the way
Yeah.
this happens. So then he says it to me, and I go, okay, then that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, so for me it's not that scientific. I'm just,
You like the pretty
this
things.
is just like, for me it's paradise. Like as a reef keeper.
Yeah, well, look, you walk into your office and then you
And listen, I'm from Germany, right? So this is just paradise. I just go to Cairns Reef, get plants from there.
Yeah, you're literally like 5 minutes
They're
away
like
from
40
everyone.
centimeters already. Like, it's just mad. Like,
Yeah.
For me, and I go out there, I have a really hard time to control myself.
Yeah.
You know, like it's.
You have a hard time. I think your wife has a hard
My
time.
wife has a very hard time controlling herself.
But actually, that's not the way it sounds. It's not like his wife is concerned that he's buying too much. It's actually his wife who is a passionate.
Oh, really?
keeper as well.
So she's more passionate than you almost.
See, mate, she's saying things I won't say on camera because I can fine for when I'm out. Like, yeah, oh, I haven't seen this coral, you know. It's like, yeah, I'm saying, don't touch it. Don't touch it. You know? So it's, yeah, that's, I enjoy that. I really enjoy
Yeah.
it. Like having Tim meeting him on the markets, talking to him about fish, and he's like, oh, I'll get you that fish.
Yeah.
I'll get you that fish. And I'm like, yeah. You know, it's just, it's a total different world for me.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, okay, scientifically we reached like really high. Like
Yeah.
this next level what we do here.
Yeah.
Right? Like having a boat and everything is awesome. But for my hobby,
Yeah.
I don't know how I can get further.
Yeah.
It's just really hard. That's
It's-
what I enjoy.
It's so funny that, isn't it? Like, I'm obviously, like, I go out on field trips and stuff, but I've been a hobbyist for years and years and years, and I often go out on these beautiful pristine reefs and I see all these amazing corals with just beautiful colours which I've never seen before. I'm like, oh, I wish I could take that back and put it in my tank.
Imagine if you were your wife.
Yeah, no.
I can't say that. She talked about getting a boat license. And no,
Shit, boat license.
I need to be there all the
You
time.
need another boat. Well, thanks both for having me. Thanks for showing me your beautiful tank. I'm keen to see sort of what it looks like in another few months. I'll probably be up again in August, so hopefully it would have grown out a bit more. I'm sure it would have, and I'm sure you probably have more fish. But yeah, thanks very much for having me. I'll put up some B-roll footage of this beautiful tank. Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Cheers. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, Adam.
See you.